Hey everyone, what's up? Now, I tried to do this earlier after work, tried to do a little bit of a live stream, and I guess you could consider this a bit of an audio update of basically something I talked about. Like I said, I was trying to talk about earlier after work, and that was how will IDW Comics handle the Sonic comics? And I think I said it best. One thing, and a lot of people actually agreed, and some people, one person actually agreed. I talked about it 9 hours ago, or about 9 hours ago. Um, I mentioned the fact that basically I feel it would be a missed opportunity, if not unwise, by IDW to ignore nearly 25 years of comic. I think it would be crazy for them to do that. Now, I can't really say that IDW is going to continue on with the book, continue on where it left off. I can't say that. Nobody can. We can't really say whether or not they're going to. We can't say if they're going to continue on, with the numeral issuing. In other words, keep the numbering of issues, as is. Instead of, stopping at, what was it, 290 or something like that, and then just going with a whole new number one. I think, I can't say that they're not going to just start with number one. I can't say that, that they're not going to start with a whole new book. I can't say they're going to start with a whole new reboot. I can't say that, but as I mentioned in the live stream, I think the one caveat that may convince IDW to continue where the Archie run left off is the fact that the Sonic comic is the longest running a video game based comic in history. It holds basically the record as far as comic books based on any kind of video game media in existence. It holds that record. So sorry for the interruption there, guys. I don't know what happened outside. Someone set something off, and they have a party going on a couple of streets down, and you can hear it. They set something off or what happened. Anyway, what I was trying to say is basically, I don't know what we don't know what IDW is going to have planned. They may or may not decide to continue the book as is. They may decide to go with a total reboot. And I know a lot of people have mixed reactions about that, because it's like, okay, because the biggest question would be, if they go with a reboot, what would the story be about? Sure, the characters like Sonic and Amy and Tails and Knuckles and Cream and Vanilla and maybe the Chaotix will be the primary stars of the book if they do a total reboot. That's probably a given. But, will it have the same flair? Will it have the same will it have the same flair that the Archie book did? Will it have that same emotional feeling and attachment that the Archie comic book had for nearly 25 years? And I can't really say if it would. I can say this. That should IDW and they decide to kind of go in a different direction, Sega and them decide to go in a different direction, hopefully whoever they bring on, obviously they got to bring on Ian Flynn, but whoever else they bring on along with him, hopefully they'll have an understanding like, okay, we'll go in this direction, we'll do it this way, but let's add a little bit of that flavor that made the Archie book the success that it is. So I would hope that if they're going to do a reboot, that they at least let the creators, the writers, give it a little bit of that that spiciness that the original book had that made it such a great, memorable book. Um, Now, if they continue, now what I hope, and a lot of people are hoping the same thing, what I hope, and like I said, a lot of people are hoping the same thing, is hopefully there's a possibility that they continue the book numeral wise from an issue standpoint as if nothing really changed. I said this in my video I did 2 days ago. I said this, I think, in my talk when I mentioned that IDW had become the new publisher, and I mentioned this today as well, or yesterday, depending on when you listen to this. I mentioned this during my live stream after work, and basically, if IDW decides to continue the book, and this is again something that myself and many fans are hoping they will, the direction and decision they'll make, along with Sega, the Sega American Sonic team, hopefully that they make this decision that, IDW has been known to continue the number of issues of a comic after it's left one publisher and gone to them. A good example is the Walt Disney comics, and how a lot of the comics are, basically continuity-wise numbered from when currently numbered in a way that when you look at them under the IDW name, you'd be like, wait a minute, they haven't been under the IDW name for that long. And that's true because the numbering of issues goes all the way back to when the comics began. So, one would have to think that hopefully IDW and Sega look at the fact that, as I said earlier and I said in the stream, the one caveat, the one, I think, censure to make this happen is the fact that the comic, the longest running video game based comic in history. So, and there's proof of that thanks to the Guinness Book of World Records. So with that in the Guinness Book of World Records, you would think IDW would want to have a piece of that pie and continue that legacy. And I think hopefully that's what they're going to do. Hopefully that's what they'll do because, like I said, it'd basically be like, it's almost like when Supergirl went from CBS to CW. CBS had canceled Supergirl after one season, but CW picked it up, and now it's going on to a third season, and it's still within the same storyline-based continuity. She may have changed networks, the show may have changed networks, but it's the same show, it's just on another network. And it's same continuity, same, seasonals, same seasons and all that. It's basically the same show, it's just moved from one network to another. Another good example is Family Matters. Family Matters began on ABC but finished up on CBS. So it was still the same show, they just went to a different network. Even animated shows in the past have dealt with this as well. Gummy Bears, Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears, they dealt with this. They were on NBC for a number of years. They were, Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears were on NBC for a number of years, and then around the late 80s, early 90s, they got pushed over to ABC. So it was still the same show, it's just that the last few seasons were now on another network. So to me, when I use those as a comparison, as an example to what IDW can do here, it'd basically be in the same vein. To basically be like, okay, here's issue 291, but now instead of saying Archie, it says IDW. That'd be the only difference. So hopefully IDW goes in that direction. Now, if they decide to do a reboot, but do it in a way that many fans would enjoy, I think the best thing to do is just start with Genesis of Hero, re-release the previous first two parts, along with the third part, which became the last issue a lot of people got, including myself, and then release part four, and then go from there from there with the plans for the other issues that Ian Flynn and Aaliyah Baker and all the other creative staff were planning to do for the comic when it was still under the Archie name, or still being published by Archie Comics. So, to me, I think that's probably the best. To me, if they're gonna do a straight up issue one kind of reboot deal, but keep it in the same continuity same kind of continuity that the fans are used to, then starting with Genesis of a Hero, we releasing the first two issues to it, along with the third issue, which was the last issue fans got before the cancellation, and then the fourth issue, the conclusion of it, and then going off and doing and publishing the stories that they had planned for the Archie run, and so forth, I think would work out in the end as well, because it's like, okay, you're establishing that this is under your name now. Genesis of a Hero part, the first four issues, which is Genesis of a Hero, is your first, are issues 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the other issues, like I said, you just let the writers and creative staff go on and do what they had planned, hopefully, for the Archie run on the with IDW. So, if a reboot has to happen, hopefully it happens in that way. But again, I think the one clincher I'm hoping works in their favor is the fact that the book's been going on for nearly 25 years. And it's 10 issues away from, it was 10 issues away, let's be honest, 10 issues away from 300. So I think IDW would be foolish. IDW would be foolish not to release the issue. Would be foolish. What I'm trying to say is I think IDW would be foolish not to continue the book as is. Kind of go, like I said, go in that similar situation that a lot of live action and animated shows have gone in the past, and even comic book titles as well, when they go from one publisher to another, and that's just keep the numbering the same. Don't change a thing. So that when 291, so let's say if they do that and 291 comes out, instead of saying Archie Action or Archie Action on top, or Archie Comics on top, it'll say IDW. So I'm hoping they do that. I'm hoping that they do that, or I'm hoping that if they have to kind of establish it as their own, that they at least use Genesis of a Hero as the first four issues, at the first four issues under the belt, and then go and let the established writers, if they bring them on, and the newer writers go in a direction that was originally planned for the Archie run, and see what happens. So yeah, I'm hoping that occurs. Another thing I'm hoping for is, one thing we've learned about IDW is if a licensed comic book is successful in some way, that they will always spin it off into another book. We know that with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they have the Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book, which is based on the Nickelodeon series, as well as they have a separate, darker, grittier hybrid of a comic under the, called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a hybrid of everything we've known about Turtles, from the Mirage run to the from the Mirage run from the 87 to 97 animated run to the 2003 the 2K run. Basically a homogenage of everything we've known of the Turtles over the past 30 years, all put into this book, including references and acknowledgments to the run on Archie. So IDW has that book. IDW also has I think maybe one, two, or three Transformer books. They have one that's based on Generation 1. They have, I think, separate titles based on other versions of the Transformers. Same with G.I. Joe. I think one of the Transformer titles they have is an IDW, is Transformers G.I. Joe IDW book. Um, so they have all these titles and licenses. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic has 2 comics, maybe 3 now. They have the Friendship is Magic book based on the show, and they have the spin-off Friends Forever, and now they possibly have the Legends of Magic along with the prequel books to the movie. So it shows you IDW knows what they're doing, and how they're doing it is really, they're doing it in a way that really shows it can be done and can be done correctly without any trouble. So when I look at how IDW is successful in doing that, like I said, they kind of, as far as series being ended or canceled, they're not necessarily canceled. Take a look at Gem and the Holograms. Yeah, that series is over, along with the Misfits spin-off. Yeah, they did a Misfits spin-off. Now they're doing a Gem anthology series. Shows you they're still continuing Gem, but in a different way. So, with that said, when I look at the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books, I believe IDW may, if they listen to the fans, they listen to the creative staff that they've said they've talked to, that not only will they probably give us a continuation of the Archie book, either by continuing it from a numeric issue standpoint, basically with 291 being under the IDW name, but I could also see them doing spin-offs, maybe doing a continuation from a numeric issue standpoint with Sonic Universe. Or maybe they reboot Sonic Universe and they use the Freedom Fighters arc as that rebooting part, as that rebooting starting point. And then after that, and then maybe at the same time, they do a Sonic Boom comic, for all we know. But I'm hoping that that's what IDW probably does, because IDW, whether you like them or you don't, has shown that they can actually produce quality spin-off books of their main comics, of the main original books and the main licensed books. They have proven that they can showcase and provide quality spin-offs that people will enjoy time after time. So I'm hoping that's what they do. They might even do a comic, basically, that's just how do I put this? They might do a Sonic comic that's just, the Sonic game characters only, and we're not talking Boom or anything else. It's just something like that's based on the games. They might do that too. We don't know, but my hope, and I'm hoping IDW is listening, my hope, along with anybody else, is that if they keep the book from a numerical issue standpoint, basically 291 being under the IDW name, and just continuing as if nothing happened, I'm hoping they do the same with Sonic Universe, and maybe even Sonic Boom, because they have shown that this can be done and they can do it correctly. Like I said, they're currently doing with the Ninja Turtles. They're going to be doing it now with Gems Anthology. They've done it currently with the Transformers and many others. They know what to do. They know what to do. I mean, heck, they've taken freaking Rom, a character that started at Marvel, I believe, and basically continued him and brought him into a new generation. But from what I understand, nothing really much has changed about Rom. And if I've read some of Zara Nizarak, and Sean, if you're listening, please correct me. But if I've read a little bit of Zara Nizarak's discussion on it when he would showcase the ROM books he would get, and hopefully he and Linkara, if Linkara Lewis Lovehog is listening, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but when IDW picked up the ROM title, the license to the ROM character, they continued it in a way that felt like nothing really had changed. So, I'm sorry, my finger hit the mic there. So hopefully they do something similar with Sonic. Now, one thing a lot of people talk about is potential crossovers now. And I'll say this. I don't see any crossovers really happening just yet, if you want the honest truth. I don't see any crossovers happening just yet right off the bat. I think what they're going to do, depending on what direction they go in, and hopefully they go in the direction to where they keep things as they are, because like I said, the one caveat, the one clincher that I think is going to cinch it, but for the Sonic books to continue where they left off, but under the IDW name, is the fact that it's the longest running video game based comic in history according to the Guinness Book of World Records. So I think IDW will want a part of that, and they'll continue things as is, just like they do with the Walt Disney comics. But anyway, as far as crossovers go, I don't think we'll get any crossovers right off the bat. I think they're going to let things run for what they are. They'll probably let people like Ian Flynn and his wife and Evan Stanley, if they bring them in, they'll let them publish and publish and make the stories they want to do under the Archie run a reality. And then if they decide to do any kind of crossovers, I would expect some crossovers to occur maybe a year in. That's what I would expect. I wouldn't expect any crossovers, folks, until maybe the end of the end of 2018, maybe into 2019, because you got to give a title like this a chance to really be established under the IDW name. So I don't see any crossovers right off the bat. But if there are crossovers to happen, I'll say this. I'm not going to rule out Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because we've already seen that from a dimensional portal standpoint, they can cross over with anybody. They freaking crossed over with Batman, and they got an ongoing series now with the animated version of Batman. And that Batman's from DC. I could see potentially something like that happening with maybe the Turtles dimensional portal opening and the Turtles ending up in Sonic's world temporarily for a mini-series crossover. I could see that. I could see perhaps a crossover, as crazy as this sounds, with My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. I know not a lot of people want to hear that, but hear me out. Hear me out. The potential from a creative standpoint is there. How it could happen, who knows? You could, there are several creative ways they can come up with that. They can come up with maybe the mirror that's used in Equestria Girls as a portal that causes Sonic and his friends to end up in their world and vice versa. So I could see something like that happening. I could see maybe some kind of dimensional rift happening, and thanks to a Chaos Emerald a la Worlds Unite, and we could probably end up having that. Maybe that is how the crossover occurs there. Again, the creative opportunities are there if they decide to go with that crossover. Crossovers with the other Hasbro properties like Transformers, that would be a huge dream come true for a lot of fans. But how that occurs and what version of the Transformers they use, it would be really up in the air, but I could see that happening. And with IDWs, and here's the one thing, like I mentioned just moments ago, IDW has been successful when they've done crossovers with other publishers. So I could see IDW maybe trying to work something out to where you have IDW and DC crossing over, and now with Sonic under the Sonic and potentially the Freedom Fighters under the IDW comic book license, you could see Sonic. You could potentially see Sonic and the Freedom Fighters crossing over with the Justice League. That could be something. So, the potential's there for crossovers. I could, we could see them cross over with the characters of Mask, for all we know. But again, I don't expect any crossovers to occur into at least 2019, maybe the end of 2018 at most. Now, the question is, how will the characters be utilized? Well, that is a good question. And again, hopefully if the comic continues from a continuity standpoint where it left off, numerical from a numeral issue standpoint as well, I don't expect much change. I expect them to stay the same. Again, that all depends on, if things continue on, which I'm hoping they do, because IDW would be crazy not to let that happen. But as far as the characters being treated, should they be brought in, which I'm assuming they will be, which is a strong, well, let's not just assume, well, let's just assume it's a strong possibility they will be. I would assume not much is going to be changed about them. I would expect maybe, perhaps, as crazy as this sounds, because maybe IDW can probably work something out with Sega, make Sega understand maybe that certain things need to happen. I could potentially see another take on the Sonic Sally relationship, but not in a way that kind of makes everybody sick to the stomach, but very similar to what you had in Sat AM, where there was something between them, but it really wasn't acknowledged that much until the end of the series. So I can expect maybe something like that occurring, being brought in. I can expect the characters to get a little bit more of the spotlight, because IDW has been known to, even through the licensed properties, to give the spotlight to characters normally that shouldn't have the spotlight. So I can expect characters like the Freedom Fighters to get that, as originally planned in the Universe arc. What else? I can definitely expect we'll get a Sonic Forces adaptation within 2018, maybe 2019. I can expect that. But I think in the end, I expect the comic, if it continues where the Archie comic left off, I expect it to be no different than what it was. I expect it to be just as good. I expect there'll be a little bit more leeway given to the creative staff, thanks to this deal between IDW and Sega. And I expect maybe certain romances to bloom back up, whether people like it or they don't like it. I expect a lot of things to occur that we probably were hoping for and didn't think we'd get, but we'll probably now get. And I also expect IDW to do something that Archie Comics didn't do. Whether you like Penders or you don't, I expect IDW, whether Ken Penders wants to admit this or not, I expect IDW to shell out the money to use the characters that he claimed ownership of after the lawsuit. I expect IDW down the line to shell out the money to pay Ken Penders so they can so they can start using his characters in the book sooner than later. I expect that to happen, because IDW, I think IDW is smart enough from a business standpoint to where they would do it. They would spend the money to do it. So overall, how do I think IDW will handle the Sonic comics? I think if things continue, basically, as I mentioned, if things continue where they left off, continuity-wise, issue number, issue numbering wise and all that. I expect the comics are going to be good. If they decide to do a reboot but kind of keep it within the same continuity that we saw in the towards the end of the Archie book, but they use something like Genesis of a Hero as the first 4 issues, and then go from there with the planned stories that was originally supposed to come out during the Archie run, I still expect it to do good. But if they decide, okay, we're going to get away from all that and just do something different, and just include game characters only, maybe with guest appearances here and there by the SAT-AM characters, I still think it might be good, but it might be a little getting used to as well. So overall, I think IDW is going to handle them very well, and hopefully it's done in a way that I'm hoping, if IDW you're listening, it's done in a way that keeps things as they were from a continuity and issue numbering wise, as if things didn't, as if things never really changed except for the publisher name. So, but that's all I'm going to say about it, guys. So let me know what you think down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.